Okay, the main story of the day on the BBC News is Starmer criticises lies and misinformation over child abuse as he hits back at Musk. In summary, Keir Starmer defends his actions and he said those spreading misinformation were not interested in victims or justice. And you were, Keir, were you? You were. Also, if he's telling lies, name them. Don't just say lies and misinformation. Tell us what he's lying about. Just off the top of my head, I'll just reel off a few things that everybody watching this video knows are not lies, alright? 1. You were the head of the CPS, the chief prosecutor, and you did very little about it. 2. British politicians knew it was happening and told everyone to button their lips, including the media, for the sake of diversity. Which, funny old thing, is exactly the same thing Naz Shah tweeted, remember? Yeah, you remember that, don't you? This was on the Metro. MP shares tweet saying abuse victims should shut their mouths for the good of diversity. Unless Tanvir Man is another far-right mouthpiece, and the Metro is a detestable neo-fascist news organisation, despite the fact it gets given out free on the London Underground. Hardly a bastion of far-right intolerance, is it? The London Underground. Christ on a bike. Have you ever been on the London Underground these days? Last time I did that, I felt like James McAvoy when he's on the bus on The Last King of Scotland. You know, hitchhiking through Uganda in the 1980s. Anyway, back to the story at hand. Starmer said those spreading lies and misinformation are not interested in justice, but the MPs that ignore the thousands of girls for decades are. Cheers then. And the BBC's analysis is that this was the most impassioned Starmer has been as Prime Minister. Really, according to BBC correspondent and man with questionable hard drive, Henry Zeffman. And then the PM quickly moved on and started talking about the NHS, because he'd definitely rather talk about that, on account of the fact he hasn't got any evidence of the lies that Mr Musk is spreading. Unfortunately for Starmer, we've all got the receipts, haven't we? And I'm going to go through some of them now. But if you're in a rush, I'll give you the short version. Starmer is the one telling lies, not Elon Musk. That's why he cast such a wide net, and he didn't specifically point at anything that wasn't true. He was indeed the head of the CPS for several years, and he did less than nout about it, and we've got the receipts to prove it. So stay tuned and I'll show you them. Easy, innit? Now you can see why the MPs have got to be in the bonnet about X, because when something's a big controversy, it throws it up on the right hand side of the screen as one of the top trending stories, and then you get a quick AI summary from Grok, the XAI, and that robot does a better job of being impartial than any of the androids that work for the BBC or the British government. It sums up as follows. The British Prime Minister has been criticised following comments he made about inquiries into Britain's gangs, notably referring to those demanding further inquiry as jumping on the far-right bandwagon. This has led to significant backlash from politicians and public figures who argue that seeking justice for the victims of these crimes should not be politicised. Do you disagree with any of that? I'm certain. I've made this point loads of times. People like Posey Parker and J.K. Rowling and Rosie Duffield, they're all Labour. They were Labour for decades. J.K. Rowling gave millions of pounds to the Labour Party. And then because the woke are mentally ill and instantly decide that anyone on the victim pyramid who you criticise for anything ever therefore warrants their protection no matter what they've done, and also warrants the person criticising them as a far-right, reactionary, stick them all in the showers with a few pounds of Cyclone B, full-blown, murderous, collectivist, fascist killer. Like, no part of it makes any sense at all. How is Rosie Duffield far-right? She was a Labour MP. Or Posey Parker, or J.K. Rowling, or any of the lifelong socialist lefty women who've been harping on about this for years because our MPs didn't do anything about it. That's a great summary. I'm sure there's centre-left women watching this. How does it feel to be called a one-bollocked Austrian midget with a toothbrush moustache because you're a little bit concerned about big beardy baldy blokes from Bangladesh donkeying one into an 8-year-old? How? How is this possible? Anyway, following this link down the page, you've got a lot of evidence. It makes it easy to find as well, including a famous quote from everyone's favourite jock Cyclops, Gordon Brown. And it is indeed a quote. We believe that they have made an informed choice about their sexual behaviour and therefore it is not for your police officers to get involved. The Home Office circulated this memo under Prime Minister Gordon Brown in respect to the victims of the gangs. Disgrace. And there he is, the leering face of molesting minors. Cheers, Gordon, you absolute throbber. And Martin Daubney's obviously torturing him as well. Let's see what he had to say. Keir Starmer just claimed anyone who wants a full inquiry into these gangs are jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. Yes, wanting justice for little girls is far right, definitely. Makes loads of sense. And it definitely does, because as you well know, the British public only ever cares about full-blown nonsense when the ones doing it are from like Bangladesh or Pakistan or something, because, you know, everyone knows that they get an easy time in prison, don't they? If you've got like a full-blown white diddler and he's ginger and he's from Aberdeen and he goes to prison, well, no, he doesn't even go to prison, does he? Now, they don't go to prison because we don't care, we don't do anything about it. And if one of them accidentally ends up in prison, all the lags are dead nice to them. They love them, they worship them, they give them free cigarettes, and they've got first pick on all the prison jazz mags. And they definitely don't get put in special segregated facilities, which is where the acronym comes from. Because the second they step foot outside of them, all the prisoners are lining up to shank them to death in the washroom. Yeah, that definitely doesn't happen. The only time we care is if the person doing it is from Bangladesh. Cheers, easy. Anyway, let's listen to it come from the horse's mouth. Come on, Keir, lie to me some more. I love it.
Who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth, and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right, then that affects politics, because a robust debate can only be based on the true facts.
Brazen, blatant lies. Also, impassioned. Have you seen the footage of him, like, clenching his fist, like, oh yeah, this is what we really believe. Impassioned. It's like bad acting. You know what he reminded me of? He reminded me of one of the Backstreet Boys when they were filming a music video. You know, when somebody else has wrote the song for them about how they've got this all-consuming love for some woman that they've never met because somebody else wrote all the songs. They do that, don't they? They clench their fist and they look at the sky. Deep down inside of me, you are. There you go. That's Keir Starmer in action. Yeah. You did this, Keir. It was you. You turned a blind eye. You thought 10-year-olds could give informed consent. I'm not a barrister or a legal eagle, but I'm pretty certain that your average 17-year-old scaffolder knows that 10-year-old girls can't consent to getting folded up like a deck chair and then rogered more than a copper's radio above a greasy kebab shop by 20, 50-year-old men. Right, I'm just putting that out there. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not a legal professional. Someone in the comments, please tell me. Anyone who's got a law degree? Is that the case? I feel like it is. Obviously, the excellent route that laws come out to torture him, regardless of Starmer's politics, it is incredibly disappointing to hear a British Prime Minister accuse politicians concerned about the mass diddling of girls by Puma trackies for wanting to jump on a bandwagon of the far right. The wrong response. Yep. And Foxy's been even less charitable because obviously he's got a bee in his bonnet because he said one thing that was reasonable on Question Time once, and he went from being beloved centre-left actor to Benito, bury him in the desert, Mussolini. So yeah, mega fair. What happened to Lawrence Fox? 100%. Alison Pearson obviously dropping some facts that anyone watching this video already knows. Starmer has no idea how much trouble he's in. How much trouble the deluded progressive leftist project is in. The Puma tracky diddler gangs with their thousands of victims is the biggest scandal in British history, some say in the entire history of the West. And the most easy to prove. There are hundreds of women, now in the 20s and 30s and 40s even, some of them, all over the place. Happy to tell you, with the conviction of someone whose heart is in it. Not like Keir Starmer with his performative Backstreet Boys. You are my groomer. None of that. Just truth. Pure, unvarnished truth. And as I said, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how you spin it. You can never turn an honest man or a woman into a liar. And that's why Keir Starmer's knackered. Because if you put someone like Sammy Woodhouse in front of the general public, their hearts will melt. Or in my case, their rage boners will rise and punch holes in their desk. Because you can't help but get furious. Your blood boils when you listen to these harrowing stories. And the normies are covering it now. Francis Foster, who is about as funny as finding a lump on your testicles while you're in the shower, and Constantine, who I like slightly more, even they're covering it. They've got the victims of these crimes who sat in the same room with the policeman, and they're putting them all over the place. They're on YouTube channels now with millions of subscribers. The cat's out of the bag, lads. And you can't stuff it back in. Indeed, I watched this a few days ago. Why the gangs purposely target white girls, a survivor's story. These are both racially and religiously aggravated crimes. The Rotherham gang survivor explains why they target the girls and how the British police are trained to ignore it. Trained to ignore it. Told to ignore it by people like Keir Starmer and Gordon Brown. We believe the 10-year-old girl made informed consent. They can't make informed consent. You know it, I know it, the family dog knows it. Special needs children in Canada know it. Keir, you weasel, you slimy, lying little toad. The truth shall set you free, Keir. Well, in this case, the truth won't set you free, son. If there's any justice, the truth will put you behind bars for 40 years, which is 35 years longer than most of these bloody professional nonces got. We'll finish up just before I completely demolish my desk. We'll finish up with Sammy Woodhouse herself, shall we? Because there's an interesting twist to this. Not only did they fail to prosecute thousands of men involved in these scandals, but, well, read it for yourself. Her page is just full of examples why we should be angry and why it's not a bandwagon but a moral duty to call out the collection of degenerate perverts and liars that lorded over us. Sammy Woodhouse said on here, "It's been 7 years since I exposed that the diddlers were allowed contact and custody of their children. I have fought to change the law to stop this, but it's been refused. The government sides with the offenders every time as long as they've got a tan." And it gets worse. I have a surprise for you, Sammy. My diddler, Rashid Hassan, took me on an armed robbery at a post office for my 15th birthday. Okay, I shouldn't laugh, but it's the thought that counts, isn't it? It's the thought that counts. This is the splendid fella that was doing the diddling, and he, of course, was treated with kid gloves by the legal system. Of course he was. And I saved the best till last. As a child, I was criminalised for being exploited in Rotherham. I'm currently fighting to clear my criminal record. Not only has this prevented me from living freely and applying for certain jobs, I also have to declare it in all my insurance policies. Unbelievable. So if it's all lies, charge her, lock her up. Sue the Spectator, the Daily Mail, the Daily Telegraph, Peter Hitchens, Douglas Murray, me, anyone talking about, because we're all lying, aren't we? We're all jumping on a bandwagon. It's all fiction. Sammy Woodhouse is making this up. The politicians didn't cover for the long-term diddlers, yeah? Sadiq. He definitely didn't get let off because our politicians weren't sending out letters to tell the coppers not to arrest them for the good of diversity. None of that happened. So she should get 25 years, yeah? Surely. It's all lies, Keir. Send the coppers around her house, get her. No, you're not going to do that, are you? And you know why you're not going to do that? Because she's telling the truth and you are a professional liar with a spinal column like a length of spaghetti and the moral fibre of a drug-addled Las Vegas crack whore. That's the facts of the matter. All right? But that's just what I think. If you think Keir Starmer's definitely more believable than me and Sammy Woodhouse and Douglas Murray and everybody on planet Earth with eyeballs and ears, if you think that, please let me know in the comments so I can point at you and laugh and we can all join in. Okay? That's me for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will, of course, share the story down there if you want to see a link. And I'll see you all tomorrow. All right, take it easy. Toodle pip. Cheers.